Yep. I think one of my colleagues is supposed to come as well, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
no, so actually that's why my team is still downstairs. I think
I
they are trying to get your colleague. Yeah. That's why I was like, how come you're here but you're still there? Oh, they're talking to your colleague.
I see.
Hey everyone, before we begin this next episode of the Hello Mentor podcast, I just want to say if you're job searching or hiring, check out hiredly.com. We are not just another job platform. We make it easier to find the jobs that people actually want, and we help companies stand out to hire the right talent. So there's a lot of smart tech and there's a lot of human touch. That's Hiredly. So you can head to hiredly.com and give it a go. Hi everyone. Hi. Welcome to the next episode of the Hello Mentor podcast. We have Wei Xiang with us today. He's a co-founder from Versa. Hi Wei Xiang.
Hi. Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying to you before we started recording, you might be the first fintech company I've interviewed. I hope I'm not corrected later, but tell us more about yourself and like what Versa is doing.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm truly honored to be here. So Versa is a mobile-first saving and investment app built for the young generations to build healthy financial habits. So we mainly see ourselves in the wealth accumulation space. We help, again, the younger generation save towards their aspiration, maybe saving towards emergency funds, maybe saving towards their travel goals, property goals, or car ownership. So we have tools, also products to make sure that, they have the discipline to hit their aspirations on time and on track.
Right. So is it like a financial literacy tool, or is it like some gamified tool? Like how?
Yeah. So I think financial literacy is a very broad spectrum of things. So the area that we specifically focus on is really on the wealth accumulation. So like financial literacy, that's like debt, insurance, and all. So for us, it's really more on the investment and wealth accumulation. And what that means is to make sure that everyone has enough, has the good behaviors in place to make sure that they retire with, certain nest eggs.
Right.
So yeah, that's basically our main sort of a mission, which again to grow their nest eggs towards retirement.
I see. Right. So in some sense, if say I'm a young person, I wanna think of how to save up money for my target. I guess most people don't even know how to start, right? So they just put money in the bank, but that's not the way to do it, I suppose.
So I think the bank, they are very, very good, of course, in helping us in our financial journey. So maybe, savings, but of course they focus a lot more on loan. Whereas again, for us, we focus on a very, very specific behavior, which is again wealth accumulation. And what that means is that we like to see our users, automating their savings, which is something which we feel that the banks haven't been focusing very much. So that is where we felt that, we could build a sort of like a niche when we started to again focus on, when we started, we actually focus on just one particular product, which is called Versa Cash. So it's basically a sort of thing of like instrument that is an alternative to fixed deposit, but you are able to withdraw it anytime. Interest is calculated on a daily basis. So we launched that about 5 years ago. Fast forward today, we have about 400,000 users. We help our users, which 90% again under the 40 years old, save almost 2.5 billion since we launched. Yeah. So this is some of the background.
Wow. So it's kind of like a fixed deposit, but you can withdraw anytime.
That is for Versa Cash, where we, that's for the product specifically called Versa Cash. We also have Versa Invest, which basically it's a service where our users can choose almost 20 different thematic portfolios, and all these portfolios are managed by our partner called AHAM Capital. You all might know them as Affin Huang Asset Management. So basically, we work together with them to provide this high quality saving platform to our users.
Right. Okay. And as obviously I was reading up about your story, and somewhere in your origin story there is a dog involved. Tell us more about this.
So I guess that it was more on the foundation of the idea of the company. So what happened was I had fixed deposit. However, there was a emergency which occurred, and when I wanted to withdraw the fixed deposit as a young person at that point, I think I was like what, 28 or 27. I realized that by breaking your fixed deposit, you basically lose all your interest lah. So at that point, as a consumer, while I understand that is a very normal financial sort of like process, but as a consumer, I felt that this is not very efficient. I left my money there for almost 3 to 4 months. I'm just 1 month shy away from my maturity, and I had to lose it all for emergency. So I was thinking that if that could happen to me, that could actually happen to many other Malaysians. And fortunately, that episode sort of it became a mission for me to actually make sure that bad experience. My initial thought was this shouldn't happen to anyone that started saving lah. But of course, as we address that and Versa gain traction now, we definitely are offering more than just solving emergency funds, which is what happened to you.
Right. And from that moment, the first thing you started was Versa Cash, is it?
That's correct. There's a product called Versa Cash.
Right, that led to Versa Cash.
Yeah, so basically it's instrument only at that point there was only available to corporates and high net worth individual. So there's this instrument called money market funds, right, where again it's institutional grade institutional grade product where high net worth and corporate use for their spare cash, right? But the problem at that point was you need a minimum of 10,000 ringgit to qualify. So what we did was we actually democratized that to qualification of 100 ringgit. So from 100 ringgit, you are able to qualify for this. So that was actually how we started Versa lah, because our thought is that not just high net worth or corporates should enjoy this sort of advantage, but also the retail. So that actually became our early part of our mission. Yeah.
Right. Do you have any kind of like finance background yourself?
Actually, I come from a marketing background, and before founding Versa, I guess in some ways I had some investment knowledge because I have like a multi-family office called TH Capital. So that was where actually I got some form of finance knowledge. But I've never worked in a bank or asset managers, nothing like that.
Right. And I'm asking because sometimes like financial instruments can be complex if you're like for some people, right? So how did you learn it?
So I think firstly is definitely is very complex, and I actually use my own experience to develop a product where we realized that just like what you mentioned, right? Complexity is not because of the product, but it's of course from the UI UX or from how do I the distribution was complex as well. So these were the few things that we will focus on fixing, and eventually by having focusing on just one product, that actually led to a kind of successful go-to-market for us lah. Yeah.
Right. So you started with the one product, and obviously you kind of learned it as you go lah.
Yeah.
How many different kinds of products do you have now?
Now I think we have 3 main segments: Versa Save, Versa Invest, and Versa Private Retirement Schemes. So for Versa Save, we have a Sharia and non-Sharia choice. Under the Versa Invest segment, I think we have almost 20 plus funds. There's Versa Gold, there's Versa Singapore, or if you want to take a position on India or Japan, we also have like a portfolio that covers regions like that. So yeah, we do have very interesting portfolio choices for our users to explore. And lastly, PRS, which something which I believe it's very, very beneficial especially for the younger generation, especially times on our side. So there's this instrument called private retirement scheme, which is something which the government actually launched, I think about 15, 20 years ago. So this is actually to supplement your EPF savings. It's a voluntary savings scheme where you can invest up to 3,000 a year, and you actually have you actually qualify for tax relief mechanisms from the government. So imagine, let's say I pay 24% tax. Let's just say, for example, if I invest 3,000, I'm able to claim 24% of that 3,000, which equates up to 700 something a year. So I think this sort of instrument is very, very beneficial for the younger generation, which is again why we carry that as well. So apart from products, we also have many tools such as the ability to allow you to auto debit, the ability to help you identify goals and help you again build behaviors towards goals. We also have a tool which we launched last year called Versa Quest, where users are able to participate with either branded quests or internal quests, where they are able to earn sort of like boosted interest rates so that they are able to get better returns on their money market funds. So this sort of innovation was something that I'm very, very proud of my product team and my technical team of delivering this.
Right, Versa Quest.
Yep.
All right. Is that a game of some sort? Sounds like a bit of a game.
So Versa Quest is basically a collection of behaviors or educational articles or even activities that you can do, which you can say is gamified. It's a gamified relationship, but the key thing it is basically actions that help you get better interest rates on Versa. So that is how we introduce the gamification element within the finance realm. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kind of go back, I guess, to your early career, like because you mentioned just now, actually you started from a marketing background.
Yeah.
Then you're involved through like the multi-family office and investments and all that. Now you're in finance, right? Like, are there different things that you've learned across those different chapters that you feel that is very useful to you now?
Yeah, we're definitely. My dream was always to own my own direct-to-user platform, even during the days where I owned a marketing agency, right? So just for some context, together with some friends, we started a digital agency called C27 right out of graduation. So we started experimenting with a few things which failed, and eventually pivoted and found some success in the digital agency space. So today I'm actually taking a non-executive role within C27 because Fazil, which is one of our co-founders, he has the background which came from Rocket Internet, Zalora, and also is definitely much better as a CEO compared to me as a fit for C27, which is why I took a non-executive role. And what I realized was that instead of I actually wanted to set up my own startup first, but between that I wasn't too confident. And I was actually considering taking an MBA course to, sharpen my business skills. But something very, very interesting happened, right? Where my late dad convinced me to hey, bro, you cannot study one lah. You, why not you do something, we could say, for example, invest in other companies and learn from the founders. So that gave me a very, very interesting perspective to learning, right? So I founded a small multi-family fund, which invested in companies from seed stage all the way to Series F, so that I can know the progress of a startup, how, what seed level entrepreneurs, how they communicate, how Series A founders communicate all the way to Series F. So we had, again, a diverse portfolio of companies as small as, at that point, Versa, companies like Money Match, Baby Dash, Naluri, and on the later stage, we also have investments sort of like to companies like SpaceX and all. So that gave me a very good understanding of how a startup eventually moves towards corporate and eventually, exit events, etc., etc. So that actually formed a big part of the education of my career, I would say. So with that confidence, I eventually was very, very fortunate to find my, a cause which I am really passionate to champion, which is what happened in basically the unfortunate incident in a bank again when I had to break my FD. So adding these two things together, I believe that made me much more confident when launching Versa.
Right. Also interesting. So when you first set up the TH Capital Fund, one of the reasons is so that obviously you get exposed to like different entrepreneurs and
different startups. We get to co-invest with so many different investors. So again, not just, from a personal development perspective, that actually gave me a pipeline to the investors, which again, some of them are with Versa today. All right. And again, at the same time, access to these high quality entrepreneurs where I really understand the struggles or basically the real landscape of growing a company. So that was very interesting for me.
Interesting, right? And your original co-founders starting C27, which is a digital agency, how did you find each other?
So basically, we went to Melbourne together.
Right.
27 is basically the address of where we used to stay together. Yeah. So he basically the name C27 came about where during uni days within this within that household we used to plan on events. We used to run a lot of charity events back in Melbourne. So when we came back, we thought like, hey, we can't just continue doing charity. So we just thought of using the same name and evolving into something for profit lah.
Right. So you were friends, right? And then you went into business together.
Yeah. So we were friends which did projects together. Then only we did business together. I think that's very important, right? Before you get into partnership with a potential co-founder, you should potentially work on a few projects with them first, right? So you kind of understand and you are able to observe how they manage, how they are, which area that they are able to contribute. Are they more on the creative side? Are they more on the operational side? And this is, again, something which I've learned.
Right. That was interesting. What's it like working with your friends?
I think in my perspective, because as a founder myself, the closest resources that I have would be my friends. And again, working with friends, I think there are of course challenges and of course there's a lot of upside. The upside is that let's say for example in the perspective of Versa, right? We operate in a space which requires a lot of trust. So my co-founders have to be people that I know inside out, right? I have to know not just how they contribute to the company, but also the ethical standards. I have to be very, I have to be very comfortable. So in that perspective, by again working and operating in areas where, high trust is required, I think that's where I benefited a lot by, working together with friends, because the friends that eventually became my partners are again friends which I worked on projects before, small projects, doing charity events, building houses for like the Orang Aslis, all small things like that. Then I sort of like identify, okay, this character, I think I can work. I feel that he can contribute a lot. So that's how I choose my friend. And I choose my business partners from my group of friends. And most importantly, I am also very lucky, especially to my current co-founders, which one is a CTO and one is a COO, right? Because I'm a more strategic, I'm more big picture. So they complement me very well, where they again bring the details, they bring the systems all in place, so that again I'm able to again focus on my strengths.
I see. And your current co-founders, were they also friends or did you meet them differently?
So my co-founder from basically one of them was my friend also from Melbourne, and another one he used to work with me in C27.
I see. Right. So you have basically you know who they are, and know what they were, right?
Yep. So again, there was some upfront relationship first lah before we became business partners.
I see. Yeah, right. Part of the reason why I asked this question is, there's two extremes to this, right? Sometimes I find that some people, when they're looking for co-founders, a little bit, I use a very Malaysian word, very chin chai like that. Like, I start a business, I need a co-founder, especially like looking for CTO. They find the next best technical person, here's my CTO, without really knowing the person. And it's a huge gamble because when you're co-founder, it's like getting into a marriage, right? But if you started as friends, that also, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's coming from the other side, right? Like, how do you navigate that relationship sometimes? Because there's the friendship and then there's the professional relationship. Was it easy for you to, let's say, how do you deal with disagreement and all that conflict? Is it easy to deal with?
I think easy or not, it will depend on individual style. So my style is always to be very clear with the outcome, right? Where are we heading, right? So once everyone is very clear, then that makes discussions much more easier because everyone they have a collective buy-in on the end destination, and of course in between where we are towards the end goal, naturally and then there will be a lot of friction, disagreement, etc. However, I think I'm quite lucky in a sense where we are quite a matured bunch. Most importantly, the way that I also structure is that I don't just depend on my management team. I also make sure that I put in place a good board of directors to govern us as well, so that it's not just all friendship and balloons, right? It's we are here to make business, or as the Cantonese were saying, 玩两餐 for my kids lah, right? So having that equation, I believe, is very, very important because we have a board of directors which, again, we look up to. We have people like Dato' Osman, Dato' Teng, and again, that provides us as founders with not just different views, but we believe that this sort of dynamics is not just healthy for the founders, but as a company itself, because we are learning so much from them.
I see, right. So you also have not just the founding team, but you have like accountability to the board. So structurally, you make sure that it's run properly.
Yeah. So that's something which I learned from TH Capital, right? Like most companies that took their corporate structure very seriously since very early on, I realized those are the ones that usually have clear indications of success. But that's again from my experience.
Right. Oh, interesting. And because you were from marketing, and then obviously I know you were in TH Capital for a while, but now you're in finance.
I was also a butler before that. There's a lot of failures which I have not mentioned before. Yeah, right.
You
sold games. Yeah, many things, right? Like, I believe today basically it's a collection of the mistakes or basically the learnings that I've done over the years. But again, I'm very thankful that that I am looking at all this as sort of like a stepping stone towards success. So yeah, it's eventually a journey that everyone has to go through.
Right. And when you first entered into the finance world, did you ever feel like you didn't belong, or did other people treat you like you didn't belong? Because it feels like a very close industry.
Definitely, right? So which is why the first thing which we did before going to market was to convince one of the existing financial players to be a partner to us as well, so that very quickly we could learn the ins and outs of the industry. We get definitely a lot of strategic value from that sort of partnerships. which is again something which we find very, very lucky as well. We are able to partner with Asian Capital.
Right, which is the Afinwa
Asset
management. That's right. Got it. And as so this started in 2021, right? You mentioned. So now it's about 5 years going.
That's correct.
So what's it like building a startup in Malaysia, a fintech startup? Like, is it are there any, I don't know, maybe I start with a very general question first, and then I'd love to dive in on what are some big challenges you think?
So, so your question is, what's our perspective of doing business in Malaysia?
Maybe something more like business also quite broad, but say like a technology-based startup.
So in our, basically in respective to Versa. So I think in Malaysia, firstly, it works well for our business model. 93-94% of Malaysians are banked. So because we rely on the banking network to basically connect to Versa, so we don't face so much other issues such as connectivity. So it's really about focusing on good UI UX, right? One more thing I think that's good in working in Malaysia is that I'm not sure about what other people's perspective, but I feel that we have very, very good talent here, multicultural talent. We also, because I think in the last few years, because of the influx of successful technology companies, right, like your Rocket Internet, your Grab, suddenly the talent ecosystem it's there. So I think it works well for a company like us lah. Well, yeah, so that's a bit of a perspective of, operating in Malaysia.
Right. Interesting. Right? So to build the talent ecosystem, in where you need to bring the company first. Like the right company then develops the talent. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Do you think it starts from education or is it starts from the company?
Sorry. What I meant was like the talent pool, right? And thankfully there was this, Rocket Internet and like successful people like Grab.
Yeah.
They already brought in, hired and trained a lot of talent within the digital space, right?
Right. Yeah.
So for us, as a 100% digital platform, right? So the resource that we are looking for is available here, right? So it's not like, we have very niche resource that we require, AI engineers from, other parts of the world. We are able to get them right in Malaysia. So I think that's very, very, for a business that has a lot of advantage, especially the perspective of sourcing talent. But of course, on the other side, you also have to be a brand that these talents want to work for.
Right. But you're right. There was a huge kind of like digital boom, like maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that created the talent pool here, right?
Right. Oh, okay. Oh, and then the question I had earlier was more of because sometimes when I talk about talent pool, you're right in the sense where because the companies came here and they started hiring people here, so the Malaysians then got exposed to this kind of work if you like, and then now they are the talent pool, which are working
with expertise,
right? So it's also something I generally also, I guess a lot of people also see it this way, like it's best to bring in a lot of companies, encourage them to start in Malaysia, and then actually it creates a talent pool for the future. It doesn't really start from, education by itself is not enough. You actually need the businesses to come.
Yeah, I think that is quite consistent globally, right? Like that's how, even in US, they call the PayPal mafia, right? How one company, PayPal, you could produce people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and also, so it's happening in US, and eventually, I believe that now, again, specifically in the digital economy space, it's happening in Malaysia.
Right. And how do you see the digital economy in Malaysia now?
I think government is doing a lot to promote the digital economy, and again, as SME and as well as a service-based industry, I believe that we are definitely, on the right track in that perspective.
Right, right. And on the flip side, what do you think are some challenges of building a digital company in Malaysia?
Challenge-wise, I think firstly, in Malaysia, because cost of acquisition is quite cheap, so competition is quite high here. I'm talking from a Versa perspective, right?
Sure.
When I mean cost of acquisition cheap is in relative to markets like, let's say your Singapore or Hong Kong. So again, competition it's really high here. I guess the second challenge would be we operate since we operate in a heavily regulated environment. Definitely we have to be very, very respectful of the regulated environment and to invest a lot in customer protection. So that actually sort of like increases into our cost lah, which again is one of the areas where we are seeing some issues with. Yep.
Right. Because I suppose finance banking is like like a risk is a big thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I mean issues is that we can't just launch things without firstly getting the right regulation in place with the right cybersecurity software in place. So all these are actually adds up and becomes very, very costly.
Right. So and also that means whenever you want to innovate on something, it's not just like you just launch it first and figure out later.
Yeah, but again, this is to our perspective as a regulated entity.
Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I guess fintech. Yeah. We operate the recruitment space, I suppose, not as there are regulations too, but maybe not to your extent. Yeah. But you also mentioned obviously in Malaysia because the costs, acquisition cost is low, it's cheaper to start businesses, so it's also more competitive, right, here in Malaysia. And obviously one of the key factors to help you start was, you managed to get Afin Huang to work with you from the very early days and all that, right? Like, how, if someone, if people started a company here, obviously they would love to get great partners and all that, right? How do you win like these established partners over?
So I think before we spoke to Afin Huang, we did actually 2 to 3 things, right? Before that, we raised a small round to prove that we are capable of raising third-party money and to create a win-win narrative, right? So that was actually the first step which we took to try to convince Afin Huang. And the second thing was that we believe that before speaking to them, we had to put together a credible board because that gave us a lot of sort of credibility. Because again, when all these financial institutions, when they look at partners, the first thing they think of is due diligence, right? And I was thinking, how would I qualify if I were to be in this journey alone? And that was again why from a very early day part of our journey, we made sure that we had the right sort of structures in place to make sure that we are credible. So that's sort of how we managed to work out a partnership with HM Capital.
Okay. I love to jump a little bit into like how young Malaysians and their, I guess, how they perspective on money and all that? Because my understanding is a large majority of your users are Gen Z,
That's correct.
right? So I guess you have like first-hand view of
Yep.
maybe behaviors and how they think of it. So what's one surprising thing maybe you learned about how the Malaysian Gen Z think about saving and spending?
Yep. So maybe I can just give you all some general trends, right, which we see on our platform. So as we serve 90% users Gen Y, Gen Z, we see a very consistent trend where almost 70% of them have an emergency fund. Almost 45% of them has travel aspiration. 25% are looking towards car ownership or property ownership. So these are sort of like the top 4 goals which Versa focuses on actually. Let's see what else would be interesting. In 2023, Versa's customer profile was like 70% Chinese, 30% the Malay population and Banlai line. But since Khairi Jamaluddin came in as our ambassador, today we are almost as like 45% Malay. So that was actually something very, very interesting as well from the data perspective.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Right.
We usually take about 3 transactions to convince our users, which means once a user transacts 3 times with us, usually 7 out of 10 will eventually stay on as active user with Versa. So yeah, this is some of the behavioral or some persona insights.
Right.
to share.
Right. I find it quite interesting that you mentioned 45% of the youth have travel aspirations,
Yep.
right? And 25% wants to own assets like cars and property,
Yep.
which is lower than travel. So I guess most people don't place that high priority on trying to own assets now.
Yeah, or rather, travel has become a fixture in everyone's calendar every year after post-COVID, right? So,
Right.
but I think especially for the younger generation, they don't just save for like what you mentioned, physical assets and all. They also value like experiences, right? So that is why we see a lot of younger generation when they first set up an account with Versa, that's the first thing they declare, where they are actually working towards a travel goal. Almost 45% of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is this also? I mean, I don't have any data here, but I wonder if that has changed in terms of attitudes to asset ownership. I don't know what would have been like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Would it have been 25%? Would it have been higher?
Yeah, I think asset ownership also depends on very your personal objective, right? Like say for us, we operate in the fixed saving space versus, let's just say, for example, some trading platforms like Moomoo or like your Lunos and all, So Moomoo and Luno, they definitely brought in a big change where, there's definitely much more participation in the crypto market. There's definitely much more participation in the US equity markets because of platforms like this. Whereas for us, again, because we are more like a long-term saving plan, so I would say the key change that we see is people moving from fixed deposits to money market funds. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is one behavioral observation in terms of portfolio differences compared to, let's say, 10 years ago. Whereas for PRS as well, which is something that we are looking to grow, private retirement scheme, I think in Malaysia, most people depend a lot on EPF as like their retirement assets. Versa is on a mission to let most Malaysians know that, hey, apart from EPF, there's also an instrument called private retirement scheme, tax related, deductible up to 3,000 a year. And, if you start saving at 30 and towards, let's say 55, that's a good almost 60 over 70,000 worth of additional savings, plus you get 24% tax relief, right? So that I believe should be part of a Malaysian young person's portfolio as well.
Right. And just kind of building on that, because I think the sense I'm getting is, when people think about saving money, obviously you need to have a lot of money, like money left over to save, I feel like, right? And so, and at the moment, if you don't have a lot of money left to save, and house prices are so high, let's say a lot of people can afford to even enter the property market, or even buying a car is not so easy, right? So I don't know whether people feel like the attitudes to saving are not quite there. I'm not sure if I know. I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question, but basically, at times when things feel like they're booming, you have access to buying all this property and you can grow with it. But now, if it feels very out of reach, I wonder if people's attitude changes.
So I think there's two things, right? I think just to clarify just now, I think you mentioned that, in summary, is saving something where you need to have some form of, basically some form of spare cash first or need. That, however, yes, while I do believe, but what I also see is that 20% of our users are actually university students. They don't really have, high income yet, but this group of users are very, very important to us because they recognize saving as a mindset. I think that is that's more important than having spare cash lying around versus having a mindset to do well from a young age. So I guess these are the two different types of behavior in respect to your question. One is, I already saved 30,000 already, what do I do with 30,000? And on the other spectrum, it will be like, I just got out of uni, I need to save towards retirement, I need to save to protect my money against inflation. So these would be the two types of users which have very, very different sort of behaviors.
Right. And to the kind of person that doesn't bother savings, it's like, I can't buy a house anyway, so why do I bother?
Correct.
What would you say to someone then?
If they don't bother saving, usually it will be very hard for even Versa to convince them in the first place, because Versa is not here to convince you to save. Versa is the preferred tool when you want to save, right? I believe most of our users, why now we've focused on those that want to save is because our communication and our journeys can be much more focused and targeted versus, let's say, if someone that doesn't want to save, there's usually two types of behavior. I see one would be, they don't manage well, and on the top of their mind they're probably like BNPL all the time, right? And the other one is probably they have money but they do not want to grow, probably reach second gen. So those are not our target market anyway,
Right.
We have, most of our customers are the urban mid the M40s who again want to have a better sort of like a better path towards retirement. That is sort of like the target market that we've been from a savings perspective.
Right. And if you are talking to like a Malaysian M40 right now, right? So okay, let's say they have the mindset to save, and they do want to save, right? Is there any particular like where should they put their money in? Do you have any opinions on that? It's not financial advice here, just to be careful,
Understand. Yeah. So I think it firstly, it depends a lot on the individual's current state. So if you are younger, then definitely you get from slightly more risk. But generally, my general advice is for everyone to start building some form of cash position to make sure that your emergency are taken care of, before thinking of anything else.
Right.
That's actually very, very important.
Right. is there some methodology to think about how much to set aside for emergency?
Typically, it's about 6 months of your expenses. Yeah, that's how we generally promote to our users in terms of how to budget for an emergency fund.
Right.
Right. Especially, it's so volatile economic condition. So, definitely we also seen an uptake in the younger generations being more responsible for their emergencies. Especially, like the last few months, since the war, right, we also could see the uptake in emergency funds saving behavior on our hand as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So people are saving more now.
Yep.
Right.
I also think because of the media as well, the government has been making a lot of statements, right? Spend less, save more, and all this also contributes to our flow as well. Yeah.
Right. Oh, interesting. Okay. And back to I guess your journey of building the company, right? So, you've raised the round, your Series A was March 2025, I believe. And obviously you were on the other side before. You were the one running the fund that invested. Right now you are raising the money. How do you feel about the fundraising process in Malaysia?
I think fundraising process, while I would say it's a full-time job, the first thing that I want to say, right, is actually for fundraising, that's the easy part. Deploying is the hard part, right? So raising 30 million is basically giving your shareholders the confidence that you can turn this 30 million into much greater enterprise value or much greater business performance, and that is actually the hard part, if you ask me. Right? In terms of raising, in general, we were thankful that we had a good historical record. We had respectable customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, which validates the business model. So that was what we worked very, very hard to have in place before even going into the fundraising process. Because when it comes to fundraising, definitely it's very, very tiring. Success rate is in single digits. So narrative becomes very, very important. So, but one very, very interesting that I've learned is that those that I tried to raise from on my seed round eventually became my investor in my, my safe round. Safe means my pre-A round. Right. Those that I pitched for my pre-A rounds, some became my investors for my A round. So that actually, while it's tiring, it is also sort of like a rewarding process where it doesn't mean that if the VC rejects you today, 2 years time, they are, they basically once you prove them, it is very satisfying to see them on your cap table.
Oh, wow. Okay, right. So it would be someone that you met before, you pitched before, they might have declined during the time.
Yes.
But they came back later.
Yes. So, as an investor myself, I like to invest in fighters lah. All right. So that is one sort of trait that I personally look out for. So we sort of try to duplicate the same attitude lah. If we wanted money, what sort of attitude that we need to have? What apart from having a good historical track record, etc.
And by fighter, is it maybe help me see this in the way you're describing it? So basically, even though they decline, you still show up and still show up.
Exactly. I mean, when I mean fighter is not like being very arrogant or what, but it's basically in a startup sense, you want to show that even though you said no, I absorb your advice. Now I'm here again. Thanks so much for your advice. Here's how we can do bigger things together for the next round. So this kind of narrative, this kind of keeping in touch with your pipeline actually helps a lot lah. So the more you pitch in the early stage, the easier it gets in the later stage.
Right. And
because they are tracking your progress already.
Right. So sometimes it's just because they decline you doesn't mean that it's a no. It's a no now, but you keep
Yeah, because most VCs, right, they will probably have like 50 conversations and then invest into one, right? So you have to understand that you're probably one of the 50 conversations only, right? So you have to go with the narrative that the highest chance of converting.
right.
So that's a little bit on our fundraising process. Maybe I can also share, just 12 months before our big Series A, we were actually very, very upset because we were offered by one of, I wouldn't say one, we were offered a large opportunity, a big opportunity by a global VC.
Right.
Terms was, we were very happy that they were, sort of like offered us sort of like a term sheet, but there was one clause that said you have to move to Singapore, which we rejected. At that point, it was very, very painful because it was a big deal. And, after working so long talking to them, it collapsed. But at that point, we felt very, very low. But as I mentioned, fundraising is a tiring journey. But it is very, very rewarding if you are willing to go through it. Fast forward 1 year later, we landed with one of the largest Series K in the country that year.
Wow.
So just to share some perspective on fundraising Yes. One opportunity closes, one opportunity opens.
Right. And then you couldn't take the original opportunity because of that requirement to move to Singapore.
Yeah. I moved back from Australia to Malaysia not to move to Singapore.
Oh, right.
Right. It's very, very important for me that I made a decision that I came back from overseas is to serve my fellow Malaysians. So when they told me to move to Singapore within less than 1 hour, I told them the deal is off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, because again, my passion is to serve Malaysians. If you take that away from me, I don't think I can serve my consumers that well.
Right. Oh, love that. Yeah.
Just to share some perspective and what's happening behind the scenes as well.
Right. And I just very curious, could you not move to Singapore but still kind of operate here?
Well, by moving to Singapore, there's that is the VC's way of telling you that you need to go regional.
Right.
Whereas we have certain aspirations, certain mission that we want to fulfill in Malaysia first before moving, to a regional perspective And again, as I mentioned, Malaysia, specifically in the wealth space, I personally see a lot of opportunity. In terms of retail, cash in bank, there's almost 1 trillion ringgit. Again, we want to be able to grow in Malaysia first, hit certain milestones before looking at our regional goals.
Right. Love that. Yeah, so actually, this is an interesting topic in terms of market size, right? So, especially a few years ago, I wonder if attitudes change, but a lot of VCs see Southeast Asia as one market.
That's correct.
Right? But in reality, it's definitely not. It's extremely fragmented. When you go to another market, it's completely different business. So many startups who try to scale regionally, some succeeded, but they've learned that it's definitely not that easy. It's not one market. So Malaysia by itself is not big but not small, right?
That's correct.
Right, but it's kind of big enough too if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, there are some success cases in Malaysia. Let's say, for example, like Public Mutual doing 600, 700 million PAT a year. If they are doing those size skills in Malaysia, I shouldn't be looking elsewhere.
Right. It's big.
Yeah, and these are 100%. Sorry, the Public Mutuals, most of their income comes from retail, right? So that tells me that the market is big enough.
Right.
So, yeah, so hopefully that is the right decision that we made of not moving to Singapore.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. Even Highly right now, we are very focused on Malaysia, although we also fell into the trap of saying that we wanted to go regionals sooner, but it's not easy at all. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I admire your love for Malaysia and our fellow Malaysians. And it's amazing. We I'm also very happy to kind of obviously talk to entrepreneurs here in Malaysia, building something here that actually serves the people. Like, obviously, it's a business, but if your business is adding value to the people, then it helps the consumers, right?
Yeah, I think one thing that gives me satisfaction is that our business model also has a very high social impact. So we have also gotten grants from people like UNCDF to be part of the SDGs, and also that is very, very satisfying, not just as a for-profit business model, but when, at the end of the day, my partners and I, we feel that, we are contributing to a social cause which we truly believe in, which is again helping Malaysians retire much more comfortably. I believe there's a statistic by I think EPF, right? To retire in KL alone, you need 1 million. And I think the statistic to show under 10 or 15% of Malaysians can afford that, right? So there's a lot of education, like what you mentioned. There's a lot of activation that needs to be done to guide our peers towards that, right?
Right. Okay. I've got two last questions.
No problem.
First one is, so when you first graduated, obviously you and your friends decided to start a digital agency together. Would that version of Wei Xiang imagine what you're doing today, like doing fintech and all that? And what would you say to him?
Definitely not. But from when I was very young, I left my career. I entered my career with a very open mind. I never had a very fixated mindset that I'm going to do this. But so in between, I mean, I felt that that it is the experiences that actually led into a different. The experience of working in C27 opened doors to different things, and definitely it opened up to Versa, which eventually is honestly what I am basically very, very happy to do. But I would definitely never imagine that I'll be in the finance space. Like, given that, just to share, during my school days, I'm not very, very good, especially in the subject of mathematics. So definitely there's something very, very surprising to me. But again, with that open mind, yeah, even though I'm in finance today, I don't think I'm that sort of like surprised.
Right. Okay. Last question. So for any young Malaysian who's listening to this, obviously we're talking about like saving and planning your finances and all that, right? So young Malaysian watching this, everyone starts at different financial points, if you like. Some would graduate, but they graduate with debt, the PTPTN or whatever, loans and stuff. Or some are supporting their parents, right? But and they're trying to maybe pay the rent and other. So it's a juggle, right? What's one very honest, practical advice you could give them to start? Let's say they want to take this seriously. They do want to save money, but they've got all these commitments and stuff going on. What's one practical advice you could give?
Yeah. So I think the first practical would be still to focus on the emergency fund, because even in the scenario of even in a bad scenario, you still will have all these commitments, right? So make sure that whatever commitments that you have, make sure that you have at least 6 months worth to withstand that shock, right? I think the second thing that we would like to actually advise our users is that although yes, we have a lot of circumstances today, but Versa also has a tool such as auto debit to help you save from as low as 100 or 200 a month. In 1 year, that would actually equate to thousands, right? Okay, so use our tools. Don't just, don't just be reactive. Make sure that you have, things that are savings that are automated as well, so that again, you might feel just like 300 a month, but at the end of the year, it's actually 3,006, right, as accumulation. So these are some of the things that, for when we see from the habit of our younger users, they usually break their savings into smaller bits on a monthly basis, which is why at the end of every month, during payday, you can see, we see a spike in transactions, because that's where, once they get their salary, we have the tools to help them automatically save before this money ends up at 11, 10, 12, Yeah. But yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. In some sense, right, I guess what I'm hearing is that yes, we have all these obligations and stuff like that, but people often have a lot of discretionary spending that they don't realize. Like if they force themselves to just set aside some money, they may realize actually they could set it aside one. They can live with less
Exactly. So saving is actually a very psychological thing as well, right? Because when you're young, right, the key friction also that we see is like, since I'm young, why not I start next month? Why not this month, right? So this is something that which we call present bias. We are working with certain universities to actually come out with journeys to actually sort of study how present bias affects users. So we need to make sure that, our users don't come and feel that, they have a lot of time to save, where actually the best time to save is now, because you should take advantage again of your time horizon since you're young. So that is something that we are working very hard on, to get users to start saving as early as possible, versus, going into this mindset that, next month I save lah, or next year. Right.
Yeah, right.
So those are some of the challenges within the savings space lah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Wei Xiang, for joining us today.
Thanks so much for
Yeah,
having me.
thanks for sharing so candidly about your story. And as a Malaysian, I'm very proud you made the decision to stay here.
Thanks so much.
And I hope that you keep doing more things for our fellow Malaysians.
Yeah.
And that Bursa keeps growing too.
And definitely we will look forward to working closely with Hailey on getting talent as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's right. We have a lot of digital talent. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to the end of the episode. If you like this, follow us or hit the subscribe button. It will help us bring on more amazing guests and makes the whole show better for you. So thanks again and see you in the next one.